This episode of the Cascadian Beer Podcast has been made possible by the BC Ale Trail. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. We move forward with our creative goals, but most of the time with a reference to the past. Welcome to the Cascadian Beer Podcast. My name's Aaron and I'm a Cascadian. In this podcast series, I profile the unique breweries of Cascadia, a region that has a strong presence on the international beer scene. Cascadia is a bioregion in the Pacific Northwest on the North American continent. It's made up of the U.S. states of Washington and Oregon, as well as the Canadian province of British Columbia. If this is your first time here, or you've been enjoying this podcast series for a while, I sure hope that you're subscribed in your favorite podcast app. It doesn't cost you anything, and you'll never miss an episode. I'm in the neighborhood of Vancouver, BC, known as Yeast Van. Just celebrating their 4th birthday, Off the Rail is a brewery that has been sticking to traditional recipes, yet they're not afraid to experiment from time to time to create some new classics.
My name is Steve Forsyth, and I suppose I'm the owner-operator of Off the Rail Brewing.
My name is Mike Evans, and I'm the head brewer and operations for production.
Sweet. And we're Off the Rail. Where does that name come from?
The name comes from our stint, or my stint, I guess, at the Railway Club for many years in my past history. Mm-hmm. So when we were looking for a name for the brewery, I sat down and had a roundtable discussion with a few people, and someone just said, well, where's your history? And obviously 28 years at the Railway Club was a history. And he just came out and said, Off the Rails. Yeah. And which we, of course, shortened to Off the Rail Brewing Company. Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense because where are we located in Vancouver at the moment? Because we're kind of close to the port too, right? Is there kind of a tie?
Right here? Yeah. I suppose there could be. Mm-hmm. There's always a tie if you want there to be one. But, realistically, we're close to downtown. We're close to tracks, either side, all sides, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's say there's a tie.
So when did you open your doors then?
Well, we opened, was it February 15th? Mm-hmm. In 2015.
So coming up, what is that, 4 years?
4 years. 4 years this weekend.
In that time then, what was it like when you opened your doors on day one? Like what was the community's response?
When we opened for the public, we had already sort of hashed out how things are going to work. Because then Steve and I started assembly the August prior.
Right.
So we started brewing that January and did some problem solving, some bug fixing, and by the time that we opened in February, we had a full line of taps, but it was a little bit easier to go in that way.
Yeah, it was beautiful out. I think 4 years in a row, 3 years in a row, we've had beautiful weather for our anniversary. So we've been fortunate that way. I think it went pretty smooth. I think a lot of people were looking forward to it. We were obviously just down the street from Bomber too, who's got their 5th anniversary at the same time. So we're starting to create a bit of an area already for people to come and try new beer. So we're in the right spot.
So like off the top of your head, do you know what brewery number you are to open in Vancouver at that time?
No idea. But I think that we've fallen to what Blair refers to as a third wave.
Probably.
Because the first wave was Parallel.
Right.
For people bringing equipment up from overseas. Mm-hmm. So Parallel started, and then they had lots of problems with their first round of gear, and then Bomber got from the same, and it's a little better. And then we were the third wave, and ours was pretty good because they keep on improving every time.
Right.
But since then, there's been probably 4 or 5 more. Like they're opening monthly.
Yeah, there's definitely some waiting in the wings at the moment.
Seems to be, yeah.
Yeah. So what's the size of the brew house down there?
2,000 liters.
All right, cool. And that's obviously expanded since day one to some extent. No,
the brew house will stay the same.
Oh, I mean the capacity for the tech for fermentation.
Brewing capacity, yeah. We've got 2 new not new anymore, but we had to add 2 6,000 liter tanks, fermentation tanks to kind of up the level a bit.
All right, cool. And then my favorite question, Mike, is how did beer find you?
It a long time ago, man. It was started as a cleanup kid at a little brewery in London, when I was like 17, and it stuck. It's one of the only jobs you can get that would allow you to take a lot of time off, because I was doing other things at the time. And when I moved here in the early 90s, I was running a brewery in Kitts full time, and then that place closed down because of rent. And then I ran another one for 12 something years. And then Steve approached me, and I've been here since then.
Right. And then how did beer find you, Steve?
Well, I suppose I found beer as a very young man. Then throughout the years, I guess, the Railway Club kind of helped me to sculpt a taste for certain types of beer. So yeah, it's been long in my history, I guess you could say.
Okay. And so then what was the driving force then to open your own brewery?
I think one of the main things, I mean, when we stopped the Railway Club, when we sold the Railway Club, I started a hop farm, went from a hop farm, started making beer because I had extra hops. Turned out that I thought the beer was good. And I have to, you always have to trust your own judgment with beer. Everybody's different. And so I started once that point reached, then I decided I would put together a business plan to start a brewery. And my wife gave me my blessings, and here we are.
Right. I'm in conversation with Off the Rail. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the BC Ale Trail for making this episode possible, because Vancouver's craft beer scene has exploded in recent years. And with 30 breweries within the city limit, it can be pretty daunting to even know where to begin to explore. Thankfully, the BC Ale Trail has you covered with the Vancouver Ale Trail. On the website at bcaletrail.ca, you'll find recommended itineraries for each region of the province, a comprehensive list of every craft brewery in BC, a calendar with beer events, and a blog with lots of great stories. The regional ale trails include local breweries, pubs, and restaurants, along with other activities the area has to offer. So whether you're planning a weekend trip or being a tourist in your own backyard, let the BC Ale Trail guide you to your next beer adventure. Arrive thirsty, leave inspired at bcaletrail.ca. All right, let's jump back into the conversation with Off the Rail. So what are the typical styles that you tend to focus on?
Steve and I both agree that we like to do things traditionally. As our main sort of setup for beer. It's like the pale ale, the IPA, the Pilsner Lager. They're very true to style as far as like it's classic English style pale ale, and it's made, it's not like a lot of them you find. It's true to its style. Outside of that, we do all different things. Like we've done everything from, well, I guess what we won't do is sours. Everything else is on the table. So.
Yeah, I think Mike's right. We do traditional style beer. We obviously are doing a pretty good job at our English style ales. Canadian Brewing Awards tell us that.
Yep.
We, love IPAs too. Obviously love American IPAs, different types coming out now more these days. And we just, really, I think both Mike and I have a really passion for brewing what we consider good beer. That's always subjective, but the beer is the most important thing here. We're about our own beer culture and sharing that with people. I don't consider us trendy. I consider us traditional. That's kind of what we do.
I mean, one beer off the top of my head for me that kind of stands out that I'm quite familiar with is the one with lemongrass and
the Raj.
Yeah, the Raj. How did that beer come about?
Well, Raj used to own the space behind us, the other side of the alley.
Raj is a man, an East Indian man who became a good friend of ours.
Yeah, he was, when we were building the place, he was always there to help with forklift or just letting us put stuff in his warehouse.
Good neighbor, yeah.
Yeah, really, really good guy. Yeah. And we asked him if we could do anything for him, and he just kind of made a joke about, I don't know, just name a beer after me. And then Steve went R&D'd up the Raj batch with like lemongrass and lime leaf in it. And it didn't take a lot of extra tweaking. And so we put it big scale, put a label together and the whole backstory, and then got his okay with it. And he was super happy with it.
And then won a gold medal with it.
And it won a gold medal, yeah. And he kept it empty in his delivery van for like a year, just showing all his friends and his clients and stuff. This is me.
Yeah. I remember at one point he had relatives here from India. And he says, Steve, go get me a bottle of that. So I pulled out a couple of bottles of the Raj, and he shows it to his relatives, and they all start laughing. And he points to the picture on it. He says, hey, that's me. Very, very proud of his beer.
Then are there any other neighborhood beers that you've made?
We do the East Van collab beers. We've done 2 of them now.
Yep.
This year it was hosted by Bomber. And the year prior to that, it was hosted by Cole Harbour. So we've done those.
We're supposed to be doing a collab with Bomber, just the two of us, but we haven't done it yet.
And they're just right
Keep
across the
talking
street.
about it, and just right across the street, and
Yeah.
it will work out at some point.
We will get it done. It's timing.
Yeah. Is there a beer pipeline between your brew houses to make this collaboration
Yes,
happen? Yeah.
We can't tell you where it is, though.
Okay. Across the street. Yeah. So in terms of where are we going from here, are you guys kind of happy with size at the moment? I mean, you do have some bombers. Are you canning?
Yep.
Is there growth in the packaging line?
I think I'll field this one, because I think that we're 4 years in now. Obviously, we'd love to see ourselves at capacity. We're not at capacity. We can still brew more. We don't have to move anywhere. We don't have to expand like some other breweries are doing. I think we'll be fine once we hit that capacity, and we'll just keep putting out the beer we're putting out on a larger scale. We do can. We've got a canning line, a portable canning line from Cask that's perfect for our size. Bombers we're keeping, and we're actually getting out of the 355 ml bottle business.
Okay.
They're keeping tall bottles, the 650s, and we're keeping tall cans, and then 355 ml cans is going to be the formats we're going to use.
Sweet. And then like distribution is pretty wide across the city in terms of you on tap and different establishments.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we would also love to have more listings with the BC Liquor Control Board, and we're working on that all the time. But we've got a lot of really great, faithful clients, which is great.
Mm-hmm. It's just, you're happy at this level, and just it's comfortable, and it's sustainable, right? For you guys?
Yeah, pretty much. Much. It's sustainable in terms of what we can do with the equipment we have. Mm-hmm. In terms of product volume, we still have room to improve, and we still have room to get bigger within our own facility.
Right.
Yeah, I think we could stand about a 25% growth without hitting, without putting ourselves in a position where we're frazzled, which I suspect we'll see by end of March. But everything I've been hearing.
I want to be frazzled. I like frazzled.
I don't.
Frazzled's good.
I'm already frazzled.
So beer is really taken off here in BC, and like we were kind of, I was kind of saying beforehand, like I went up north, and like there's a lot of stuff up there now. Like just from your perspective of just seeing stuff in Vancouver, like how much has beer changed in the 4 years that you've been open, you think, BC wise?
Just the 4 years?
Yeah.
Before that, I mean, we had a long way to go just to open a lot of doors, I think. I compare it to Washington State and Oregon State, where we always had to go to get great beer. Things started to turn around here a bit, I think. And once the government opened up the doors for microbreweries and tasting rooms, it really took off. And now, a lot of restaurateurs are getting into the business because they can. I think it's an awesome time to be in our climate if you're a beer lover. I think it's great. There's so much to choose from. There's a lot of great brewers in our community.
Yeah, I know. BC is definitely still kind of leading the pack, I think. I think we represent, like last year at the Canadian Brewing Awards, it was in Halifax. And all the awards handed out, I think that BC was home to over 50% of them. Yeah. Whereas the rest of the province was the other, or the country was the other 50%. So we're still doing a pretty good job.
And I mean, just not to get too political, but we need to get beer across the provincial lines to other places too, don't we? So
without the levies and the surcharges.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that may happen. It has happened for some breweries already.
Yeah. So in terms of going down this path of opening up your own brewery, what would be some advice you'd give somebody just getting into the planning stages of it?
Hindsight, eh?
Hindsight's awesome. I would suggest if anyone was considering to start one, to talk to as many operators as they can about what they would have done differently when they set up. Save yourself a lot of headache that way. I would also say that there's no point in going in on a brew house that's anything smaller than 7 barrel or 8 heck. Otherwise, same amount of time to make that much as there is to make 2,000 liters.
Yep.
So
my advice would be get more money, get bigger storage. So you have your coolers and it's big enough to handle, so you don't have to go off site with your storage, and know your production, know what you're going to do, whether you're going to package, whether you're just going to be a lounge, whether you're going to be a brew pub, know how you're going to package and how you're going to sell your beer.
And maybe take a part-time job at City Hall.
And who's inspiring you in the beer scene? Doesn't necessarily have to be in Vancouver, but like who inspires you guys to kind of
Wow.
Kind of stick at what you're doing, or or different ideas that come up.
There's so many great breweries now. I mean, there's I'm also sort of thinking about just across the border in the US, and there's just such there's high quality happening down there, like really, really exceptional. So
my hometown of Bellingham there right across the line. Yeah.
They've got like 15 fantastic breweries.
14 breweries there now. Yeah.
And I mean, there's a couple. Everything I've ever had from, say, Pelican in Pacific City in Oregon has been that just a notch better than everything else. As far as the smaller breweries, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I've been to a whole bunch down there. Like it's just the names I don't remember, but
Fremont comes to mind. And,
I mean, some of the ones have been around a while, like Boundary Bay and all that stuff. But there's so much happening, and the people that are just kind of changing the dynamics. And like Green Flash was one that comes to mind as far as when they first put out the Green Flash IPA. They kind of changed how we thought of a Pacific Western IPA. And so guys like that are still changing, like they're still cutting edge.
I think there's way more experimentation going on now. I think some is terrific, some is not as terrific. And I think, it's kind of, to me, I liken beer to food, like, or a brewer to a chef. So you can do some things and you can mix and you can match and you can use new hops, mix your grains, but it's got to work. It's got to work. You make it once, and if it's not good, you don't make it again. So you've really got, the experimentation is fun. Again, we go back to what we do. We're traditional flavors. I was in the Czech Republic last year and just had the best Pilsner Urquell of my life.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, and happy birthday.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Big thanks to the guys at Off the Rail again, and happy birthday. Well, belated birthday now. It was just before their birthday weekend when I recorded this episode, so it's been their birthday now, so happy birthday. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Cascadian Beer Podcast, and I do hope you're subscribed in your favorite podcast app. Doesn't cost you anything, and you'll never miss an episode once you do that. Also, if you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to share and tell a friend. You got that beer friend that hasn't listened to podcasts yet. They'd like to hear it. If you want to follow this podcast series on social media, you can by going to facebook.com/Cascadian Beer. I'm on Twitter at Cascadian Beer and on Instagram at Cascadian Beer Podcast. For more episodes and more info, you can go to the website, cascadian.beer. Thank you so much again for listening. I really do appreciate it. Your time means a lot. And until next time, remember, support your local.